Hello and welcome to the Whisky Trials. This is a special Whisky Trials. It is a family requested trials, and as you can see with the whiskies in the front here, it's a Glenmorangie special. I haven't covered any Glenmorangie. I haven't even mentioned a Glenmorangie in any of my reviews thus far. My Uncle Mike, hey Uncle Mike, he wanted me to talk about a Glenmorangie, and what do you know? This one, the 10-year-old, was on special in the Co-op, and the 12 sherry cask finish, 12-year-old, was on special in Tesco's. So it must have been fate, Uncle Mike. That's all I can say. It must have been fate. So, without further ado, let me just pour myself a wee dram of the 10. Now, I've already opened this one. The 12 is unopened. I've already actually had this one before. I've had the 10 plenty of times in pubs and stuff. And, you know, it was surprising. I don't know why. You know, you get these kind of thoughts that, you know, you're not going to like a certain whiskey. And I think Glenmorangie was one of them for me. Like, I didn't think I was going to like it. And then when somebody bought me one in a pub, I was pleasantly surprised, you know, it was quite nice. But yeah, so, as per my usual, let's just talk about the branding a little bit. You know, it's simple enough. It doesn't really float my boat. It's definitely not my favourite. I think if you watched my last video, I did the Springbank, and the Springbank really kind of gets it, for me anyway. The Glenmorangie, it's a little bit boring. The colours are a bit kind of, yeah, whatever. You know, I don't know if they're trying to go down, or they're trying to make sure that they're this kind of luxury look, much like Macallan. I don't think they hit the mark in that regard either. There's other ones I think look nicer. Actually, there's a Macallan in the back there to compare and contrast. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like they might be going down a Macallan route there, but anyway, yeah, it's not my favourite branding, that's for sure. But you know, whatever. What else is there to say? There's quite a lot of information on the back actually. I wrote some notes out, just so I'd have some interesting little quips about the distillery. But one of them that I actually wrote down is that it's got the tallest stills in Scotland. Yeah. In pursuit of the exceptional, we distill Glenmorangie spirit in Scotland's tallest stills. Their longer copper necks allow only the very finest vapours to rise to the top. The result is a wonderfully pure and fragrant spirit, bursting with fruity floral complexity. There you go. So yeah, it's a fun fact about Glenmorangie. Some of the other stuff. It was founded in 1843 on the Dornoch Firth. Glenmorangie means the Valley of Tranquility, apparently, which is quite nice. It's owned by Louis Vuitton, the LVMH. I think they own another distillery as well. What is it? Ardbeg. They've got 6 stills, 6 of these tallest stills in Scotland, which produce about 6 million litres every year. They always put on their bottles as well, they've got this little thing. It's produced by the 16 men of Tain. And that was just because it was 16 people that pretty much produced all the whiskey in the distillery. I'd reckon it's a bit more now, you know, you'll have like marketing people and all the rest of it, but the base crew is 16 people, so when they say the 16 men of Tain, that's what it is. And yeah, I was just on holiday in Tain actually, and we went to the Balblair distillery. We didn't go to Glenmorangie, but you know, it might be worth having a look in Glenmorangie, I think, next time I'm up that way. So cool. Alright, so let's dive straight into the 10. I was going to say it's kind of unremarkable on the nose, but actually it's quite nice. It's pleasant. That might mean it's like slightly unremarkable, but there is that slight kind of almost acetone underline, which I now associate with the fragrance of that acetone. If it's done right, it kind of goes into tropical fruit, either banana or pineapple or something like that. There's quite a nuttiness on this one. You know, you get the nice heather sort of honey notes as well. Do you know what? It is a nice dram. It is slightly, it's not overly complex in terms of the sort of sweet notes that you can kind of pick out. It is definitely more of a kind of sweet one, but it does have some woody, earthy, kind of nutty notes to it. It lingers a bit, the sweetness definitely lingers on the palate, so it's not too short a finish. But I'm it's almost there with some tropical fruit. Yep, it's got some citrus coming through. It's very, very light. It's not a wood spicy one at all. You get some that are really oak spicy, and they can have that slightly numbing Szechuan pepper kind of taste. This is very light on that. There's not much oak spice. There is not much of that kind of pepperiness, which actually I quite like. I mean I like the pepperiness. I like that sort of slightly numbingness as well sometimes. But it's nice to have one that doesn't have that. I mean, you shouldn't be drinking the same stuff all the time and looking for the same stuff every time. Expand the old whiskey horizons. I mean, it's solid, and for a 10, it's pretty decent. I mean, I have been obviously the Springbank 10 kind of does it for me, and the Talisker 10, and the Glencadam. I mean, putting it up against those ones for me, it's falling short. But as a simple enough sort of daily sipper, if you like, it's decent. It's pretty good. The one thing I would note though is for a 10-year-old, it's on the expensive side. I think when I got this on a deal, and it was 28, and I think the price had said that it was £12 off. I don't think it's normally 40 quid, but I think it's normally around the high 30s. And I suppose thinking about the Springbank, that's kind of expensive as well. The Talisker's probably up there too, so it's probably a fairly reasonable price actually. It's not too bad. Although not quite as enjoyable for me as the other ones, so I'd be willing to pay that amount for them, and maybe I'm not willing to pay it for this. It is definitely like, I hate to use the word smooth, but it is the smoothest kind of whiskey, which might be great for introducing people to whiskey as well. Could be a good introductory nip to get somebody on the whiskey wagon. Yeah, I mean I get a spice. It's a slightly different spice, a slightly different kind of pepperiness. It's it's lighter, it's less, but it kind of hits almost like a different part of my tongue. It's almost like hitting the sides. It's almost like a white pepper rather than the almost like a black pepper or a chili pepper, which kind of gets a different part of my tongue. So yeah, it's decent. It's decent. I'm not gonna slag it. I'm not gonna be like too harsh on it, because you know what, I think they're doing a pretty good job there. Fair enough. I don't like the branding too much, but there you go. Actually, one good thing about the branding is what I'm really looking for right now in terms of boxes is just boxes, because surely they've got to be a bit more environmentally friendly, right? Because you've got the well, I've got an old Pulteney there, with the tin lid, and I've got a Glendronach one there that's got a tin lid. Now that can't be particularly good for the environment. And the new old Pulteney, I have to say, I'm very disappointed in, because it's got a massive bit of plastic up in the lid, which I don't like. I mean, even all this stuff, the metal that goes around here, I mean, the plastic wrap and stuff, or sometimes it's metal. I think this is plastic, but I mean that can't be good. So I think in general, in the boxes, if they can trim it down as much as possible, so that it's, you know, something that's easily recyclable and is just cardboard, that does it for me. I like that. And Glenmorangie are doing that. You've got Glengarry there as well, and the Springbank. You know, it's just a very simple, just a cardboard box, I think, that can get recycled fairly easy. Ooh. Quite a light smell on the cork, but nice. It's got that kind of slightly aged leather kind of smell, the raisins, sort of cherries and dark fruits, an old fruitcake kind of smell. You know, it's a Christmas cake that you've been cooking for a couple of months and stewing in some juices, in sherry juices, or perhaps whiskey. You know, you can make a really good Christmas cake with whiskey, so I advise doing that. It's good. Right, okay, so this is one that I have never tried before. It's an interesting point that I just thought of there, actually. Normally when I try a 10 like the Springbank or the Talisker, and I really like it, I'm like okay, motivated to buy some others. And whether that's been in a pub where I've bought something, and then I'm like, right, okay, that's really nice, I want to move up the ranks, or buy a full bottle or whatever. That didn't happen when I tried the Glenmorangie in the pub. And if I'm honest, it still hasn't. I'm still not wowed by it. I'm still not like, this is where I want to spend my money. Because let's face it, whiskey's, you know, quite expensive. So this is why people watch these reviews. Is that, you know, they would like a bit of guidance. If you think you've got a similar kind of taste to me, or even if you just trust in people's opinion on YouTube on what to drink, I would probably steer you towards I'd need to know your tastes, I suppose, but you know, I don't think I would immediately steer you towards Glenmorangie after drinking the 10. I'd be like, yeah, I can think of better places to put your money. So that's an interesting point. Sorry, Glenmorangie, it's just the way it is with me, I'm afraid. So this one is obviously finished in sherry casks. It's called Lasanta. I don't know what that means. But yeah, so it's 2 years older and it's a sherry cask finish. Perhaps, I've not looked into this, but perhaps it's a 10-year old and then finished in 2 years in cask. But I think I asked a question in one of the distillery tours I did recently about finishes, and there's a difference between maturation. So when, like, Balvenie say it's the double matured, that means it's spent X amount of time, like a long time in both kinds of barrel. Whereas when they say it's like a finish, that generally means it's like just probably spent a few months, like 6 months maximum, in a barrel. But you know, and I think you can tell that because the sort of sherry ones that I'm used to, like the Glendronach, it's got a real like sherry smell. The 12-year-old is like real, lots of sweet notes going on, lots of fruits, and this kind of falls down a little bit compared to the Glendronach 12. Getting some woods though, there's quite a lot of nice woody smells. It's got that earthiness again, that must be a trait perhaps of Glenmorangie. And a bit of the kind of nuttiness as well. I'm not sure it's adding a huge amount to it. It's definitely sweeter, or it's definitely got some more sweet notes in there. It's definitely got that kind of leathery, kind of comforting smell to it. Almost a slight bit of tobacco. And it's got more kind of vanilla. Yeah, it's got more of the vanilla than the 10-year-old does. It's nice. It's I would class this as like a simple dram that you don't need to think about. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's bad because of that, or that I don't like it because of that. I actually like it because of that. Quite often when you're drinking, or you've got quite a lot of whiskies and you're trying different kinds of whiskey, you can get caught up in this kind of complexity and getting involved in all the sweet flavours or the smokiness and all the different sort of nuances and stories that you tell yourself in your head about the smell and the taste and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? Sometimes it is just nice to have a simple dram that you can just sit down, and instead of like maybe talking about the whiskey, you actually talk about life or something else, you know. Quite often my conversations go into whiskey, and we end up going down rabbit holes about stories and smells and tastes and all the rest of it. But that's not to say that wouldn't happen with Glenmorangie. I just think it's a simpler dram, with sort of smoother edges. There's less to discover, but that can actually be a good thing because you don't need to think about it. I mean, sometimes I think about whiskey too much when I'm drinking it, and maybe it's good just to have a dram that you don't necessarily need to think about too much, and you can just sit and enjoy. And this is nice. I think I'd rather have this one than the 10. And if it's on a deal in your Tesco's, then yeah, you could have bought a worse whiskey, that's for sure. Let's see if I can get some, if there's more peppers or anything in this one. Yeah, you give it the swish around your mouth. I think the 10 seems to have more citrus and more orange. The 12, it's got more pepper. It's got more oak spice, and it's got more sort of vanilla and red fruits, but it's missing, for me anyway, I'm not getting as much citrus as I was in the 10. It does have that nice smell that I like from sort of sherried whiskies. It's just not quite as pungent, I guess, because it's not spent as much time. But yeah, I mean, I think I kind of had an idea of Glenmorangie in my mind, going back to what I initially said about having this opinion. I probably wouldn't like it. I think it was a malt that I thought was one of these big kind of corporate ones, and in a way it is. It's not huge. I mean, with the 6 stills, you look at Glenfiddich, which is absolutely huge, and it's got 32 stills. So it's like it's a lot smaller than that, but it's still in my mind. I put it up there as like, oh, it's a kind of corporate one, just churning out as much whiskey as possible and not putting the care and attention into it. Actually, that brings me to another point, which is what I always like to see in whiskies, especially in the younger ones, that they don't keep it at 40% unless it's unless it's really good at 40%. So the 12 is at 43. I think that's okay. I'd like to try it at 46, and the 10's only at 40. So it's potentially why it's just a little bit lackluster and maybe a little bit too smooth for my liking. I think if it was up at 46, it would bring out more oak spice, more pepperiness, more of that orange as well. I think it would just amplify all those flavours. Which is why I'm not normally a fan of 40s, although there's a few 40s that I really do like. But even still, I'd still like to see them at 43, 46, even 50 sometimes. But yeah, I'm just going to just go back to the 10 quickly. See what I'm getting now that it's sat in the glass a little bit. And now I'm getting what I was getting before when I tried this the other night, which is it's very ice cream soda. It's very ice cream soda-ish, which I've always liked. I've always been a fan of ice cream soda as a kid. It's got that kind of Coke float sweet. It's just that melting ice cream into another sweetness kind of thing going on. Getting some caramel now. So it's much nicer on the nose now that it's just been sitting in the air for a little bit. And actually I think I'm going to do a video on this, because I've had so many whiskies which especially neck pours. So you neck pour something, immediately you're excited about it, so you want to smell it and you want to taste it. And sometimes you can be a little bit disappointed. You're kind of like, oh, that wasn't quite what I was expecting, or but just leaving it in the glass for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, an hour, can make a huge difference to a whiskey. There was if you look at my blind taste testing video where I did like 6 port cask finished ones, it was the Glenmorangie 25-year-old, I think it was, port cask, and I didn't like it. I actually confused it with what I thought to be like what would be like a sort of cheaper substandard whiskey, and that's why I didn't guess them all right. But that Glenmorangie 25, I left it out the entire night, nothing on top of it. It just left to breathe, and then I drank it the next night, and it was so much better. It was so much nicer. Obviously, the more you leave it, the more the alcohol kind of burns off. So you can get your nose further in, and you can dig about in the smells a bit more. But yeah, ice cream soda now. So if you're into your ice cream soda, your kind of caramel, it's got a nuttiness as well. The 10, then yeah, so much better now that it's just been sitting for a little bit. Yeah, it's got a really nice kind of light wood flavour. Quite often in malts, you get quite a deep and dark and almost like a funky sour oak wood. Not with this. It's very light and pleasant. I like it. It's just, yeah. I mean, still on the taste, I'm not. It's nothing wowing me. It is nice. There is different sort of flavours in there. But yeah, it's not wowing me. So yeah, going back to this one, it's much more dusty leather. With the sort of dried fruits, raisins and sultanas. You know that smell? You know that smell where you open your mum's like baking cupboard or whatever, where they've got all the baking supplies, like the open packets of sultanas and raisins and cherries, the glacier cherries and all that kind of stuff, and all the sugars and flours and stuff. It's kind of like that, mixed with a bit of a kind of leathery, old leather smell, which I always find quite comforting. And it can also lead into that kind of that tobacco smell, not burnt tobacco, but just the tobacco in the packet, like a pipe tobacco. Yeah, I mean both really nice. Potentially uninspiring, but good quality drams that actually I think if somebody was like, I've never tried whiskey before, have you got anything that I might like? I'm not into the sort of smoky ones, I just want to try a sort of sweeter one. I think those two would be good options to get somebody into whiskey. And even if you're already into whiskey, I think there's worse places to put your money. I could probably think of some better ones, but do you know what? I think the thing about having or being into whiskey and having a collection of whiskey is that you need something for every kind of occasion. And like I was saying, if you've had a hard day or whatever, and you come in and you just want a simple whiskey that tastes good, that's going to hit all the right spots, and isn't overly complex and all the rest of it, then this one fits the bill. So, Uncle Mike, there you go, a Glenmorangie review for you. Also, I've said Glenmorangie. That's how you say it. I'm saying it perfectly, as everybody knows. I have perfect pronunciation when it comes to all things whiskey. See all my other videos for absolute non-proof of this. So, I think that's it. I've not got much else to say about it. So, thanks for watching. Please feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe, hit the little grey bell to get notifications, and let me know what you think of Glenmorangie in the comments. So, cheers. Here's to you. Slącie.